It's April 4th, 2023. Beautiful here in Tennessee. 80 degrees today, at least. Sunny, warm. It's an extended spring here, so it's really pleasurable, enjoyable time of year, watching everything bud and pop out. So, lots of things going on. Lots of toxicity being revealed for a while now. And I think we're seeing the culmination of toxicity being revealed, especially in the banking system, in the markets, which we have yet to see that flush out. I think a lot of mental illness is being revealed, and toxicity's connection to that. We've had a lot of news about de-dollarization. I've talked about this several times. We will likely continue to see a lot of news float out in months to come about the world moving off of the dollar reserve currency status, while we have this weak president actor in place, and move towards the US standing up against that when the next president comes into place. All actors, all following their script. The US won't go down without a fight, right? So we're going to have to go into battle without using the W word. We're going to go into world battle before we see, before we see the dollar totally removed as the world reserve currency status. But how do we prepare before that? So gold and silver are taking off. Silver has surpassed $25 today, which means that it's $1 is 1/25th of an ounce of silver. Gold has surpassed $2,000 an ounce, which means that $1 is 1/2000th worth an ounce of gold. Interesting when we look at it that way. The financial system, the world financial system, has become toxic, gluttonous, toxic in deception, greed, and the world is going to move away from that in so many ways. There will be a great wealth transfer, and we will see it happen over the next few years, but many are preparing for it now. In the meantime, getting back to mental illness, we are seeing a lot of mental illness being revealed. And I'm hoping, and so many are hoping, that the stigma connected to mental illness, because we all have mental illness, and the pride of the ego denies that. And so hooray for those who are able to humbly admit the mental illness. When we say in spirituality, we call it strongholds of the mind, lies we believe. It sounds nicer when we say that we believe a lie, because it makes us sound like a victim. If we say we have mental illness, it makes us sound like a crazy person. It's the same. And, a lot of it just is generational, comes from our family lines, comes from trauma and sickness and death and things that have happened to those in our family lines and that have happened to us. And we're doing the best we can to get healed. Some of us, some not so much. But what I see is where there is a humility to admit that we don't know it all and that we do have mental strongholds. And there is a warfare going on right now for us against these mental strongholds. So we can rejoice in that. And as we lean into that, admit it, and receive the healing and the truth how much easier it is to be healed in humility. Humility is, I believe the secrets of humility are just being opened to humanity. And for those who are willing to bear the consequence of what humility brings to the ego, the treasures of the heavenly realms will be manifested like we cannot believe, or even know, or even expect, if we will lean into what humility brings to us. If we will lean into that, what humility brings and what happens to the ego when humility comes. And hiding, seclusion, covering up, all that stuff that the ego does to the shadow, to the dark parts of ourself, there's being a reveal, a great reveal is happening. But toxicity is still being revealed and will continue to be revealed. And I think that those who are open to share, to converse, communicate, ask for help, admit we don't know it all, admit that we need to change the way that maybe we communicate or the way that we relate, we'll see a great grace fall in our lives to be healed. And I believe that power attached to that humility is going to bring great blessings, like in other areas of our lives, financially, physically, in our families, in our homes, in our jobs, all around our lives. I believe fruit is going to come because, number one, it's spiritual law. The power of humility releases blessings in all areas of our life in ways that we cannot even expect or strive for. We can try to strive in our flesh and in our ego to get places, to get things all around us to come together the way we want them. And we will come up empty, exhausted, broken, and not seeing the fulfillment of those things. And yet when we lean into humility, which the Holy Spirit shows us that path, that narrow path through humility, when we lean into that, and we just keep leaning and bowing into that, we begin to see flourishing, blossoming, abundant blessings popping up all around our lives that we could not ask or imagine in all areas of our lives, blessings, because God can entrust to the humble what cannot be entrusted to the proud. The kingdom of heaven is given to the meek, right? Blessed are the meek. For they shall inherit the earth, right? And the kingdom of heaven is given to those who lean into the path of humility. And I believe that the calling of the Holy Spirit right now is, the Holy Spirit is calling us into the mental realms of our strongholds. And through that path into humility, to lean into humility as we go into the strongholds that are being revealed in our lives, to lean into humility instead of pride, instead of the ego, instead of, no, I don't do that. No, I'm right. No, I'm always right. No, I know it all. But to lean into humility, gently, tenderly, openly, nakedly, into humility, and admit that we have been bound and tormented by mental strongholds that have kept us in captivity. We're going to be liberated. We're going to be liberated. And that path of leaning into humility to be delivered of these strongholds is going to call us to do things we've never done, to lean into ways that we've never been. Where we were proud, we become humble. Where we were condescending, we will become learned. Where we were the teacher, we will become the student. Where we were the professional, we will become the novice. Where we were the know-it-all, we will become a child. And we will learn from one another, and we will be open to not just walking with God and allowing the Holy Spirit privately to teach us and to deliver us, but it's going to come through relationship. It's going to come through others. Because there's a special humility that is bred inside of us and woven inside of us and worked inside of us like dough. There's a special power to that humility that is worked in us that doesn't happen in the secret place with God, but it happens in relationship with others, because there's an exposure of our soul to another human being, which brings a humility that can't come any other way. And it forces, in its own way, it promotes, encourages, and creates not only that humility in us, but vulnerability and accountability with others that creates a synergy between two souls that was intended in the intimacy that God wanted man to have with one another in his spirit, in that spirit of God, the spirit of humility. So the Holy Spirit is stirring the waters of our soul. Holy Spirit is stirring, activating, prompting, urging, putting an unction in our soul, in our inner being to step out and do things concerning our intimacy and relationship with other people that we normally wouldn't do before, because we're changing. One of the mental strongholds that we have is that if we kind of keep doing the same thing, but life is going to change, things are going to change, but I'm not going to change. I'll just keep, something's going to happen, something will change me, something will change my life. And yet I'm not going to change those little things the Holy Spirit is pressing upon. No, I'm not going to change those things. I'm not going to do anything differently, but I'm expecting things to change. No. We're going to be prompted and urged and pressed. The Holy Spirit is going to lean on our soul in places where we have either been unaware, ignored, pridefully unaccepted that invitation by the Holy Spirit, and we're going to accept the invitation to move out in a different way than we have in the persona that we've been all our lives. We're going to change. We're going to be different. We're going to do things differently. We're going to see the manifestation of heaven come to earth around us and in the atmosphere around us. And the blessings and abundance of God's heavenly outpouring is going to come around our lives. We're going to be seeing that fruit. And God's going to show us that's connected to the humility that will bring meaning to life. It's all connected. And the toxicities that are being revealed right now through mental illness, through inappropriate, relational techniques, toxic patterns, cycles. Our cycles, they go around and they come around faster because every time we cover up, we don't deal and we don't lean into that humility and it just keeps coming around faster. The dysfunctional cycles, they'll come around faster and harder every time. And that is spiritual law. And it all is meant to bring us back around to God's intended purpose for that thing, to redeem us out of that pit of whatever that cycle is, that dysfunctional cycle. And we're going to see ourselves come off of that merry-go-round, that carousel, circus, and move into the abundant garden of God. A whole new realm we never knew. If we are willing, we have to give the will and do the things we've never done to see the blessings and the abundance we've never known. It's spiritual law. And God himself is making a way for us. The power of heaven has gone before us. God knew we can't do it, but as God has gone before us, we can. And the Holy Spirit enables us, teaches us, guides us, prompts us, pulls us and pushes us, and speaks to us all along the path to help us in every way that we need, teaches us every way that we need to do it, to come into that healing, that abundant life. So toxicity, dysfunction, we can run from it, or we can allow it to become the avenue, vehicle by which we hear the voice of God calling us into and leading us into humility that brings heaven to earth, redeems us, and brings us into healing and abundance. The choice is ours.